Welcome to the Clark Howard Show. This show's about you and you being empowered with ways to save money. I have a sizzling deal for you coming up in just 20 minutes. And in a half hour, you're going to be asked more and more for your fingerprints, your eye scan, your facial recognition permission, among other things. And the recent bankruptcy of Sports Authority is a clear example about how we have to be more aware how our personal information is going to be used. I want to talk about that in just 30 minutes. When you have a question for me, go to clark.com/ask. Our web address, obviously, clark.com. I want to talk about something that is confusing to people, and that is when you're looking to travel somewhere, how fares are set. And never more confusing than right now, because airlines, for the first time in years, are on their back heels. They're making a lot of money, but there's more empty seats in the air than we've had in a long time. And airlines are becoming more and more desperate with sales for non-business travelers. Airlines are like a surgeon with precision, are gouging business travelers to the nth degree like never seen before. If you travel for work and your plans change a lot and you travel on short notice, you are getting eaten up in the wallet. Your employer, you work for somebody, they're getting destroyed financially. And at the same time, when you change from your work hat to your leisure hat, you're getting the best airfares in memory. We got to go way back to find anything like the great deals that are available now across America and around the world. The best deals of all for the second year running are deals to Asia. There's a slowdown in the Asian economies, especially China, too many seats flying to Asian markets, and the airfares right now are so cheap to a lot of Asian markets that the fares are half what a business traveler pays to fly from Cleveland to Newark. And there are a lot of fares to Asia lately that have been in the $400 range round trip. A sale just last week to Thailand for $500 and some odd dollars from the United States, depending on what city you're flying from, to $600 and something round trip. These are happening all the time. The calendar is moving into the zone where you're completely in charge as a leisure traveler in what's known as shoulder season travel, which for travel to anywhere internationally begins this year on about August 20th, right? Subtract or add a day or two either way, and runs from there into the fall through Halloween. And after Halloween, international travel gets cheaper yet. But this year, the shoulder fares are less than what the off-season fares were for winter a year ago. And for domestic travel, the marketplace has changed totally because of the three deep discounters, Allegiant, Frontier, and Spirit. They have totally upset the cartel, the Delta American United full fare price cartel, with phenomenally cheap fares that have forced the three full fare airlines to respond. And so for fall travel within the United States, fares are going to be good to incredible. As far as looking for things, the best way is to be opportunistic. Instead of saying where you want to go and then looking for a deal there, flip this around. My key rule for travel: you buy a bargain and then figure out why you want to go there. And if you do that, you will see the whole world. But for less than other people see only a tiny part of the world. And that's always been my philosophy, because you go where the airlines are begging you to go, where the cruise lines are begging you to go. I was having a conversation with my mother-in-law and father-in-law, who were very confused about these emails they were getting from cruise lines saying, we have this deal, you get this free, that free, the other free. And then they go to look, and the cost of the cabin's big money. And yeah, they're giving you this, that, and the other, but you're paying a lot. And I showed them something that you can look at the same ship on the same cruise line, and 1 week it'll be half the money of the next week. It's all dynamic demand pricing, which is a fancy phrase meaning that the computers are able to store so much data now that they're able to crunch what demand is going to be like on every flight of every day to everywhere in the country and the world, the cruise lines, every cabin on every ship. Every phase of travel now is able to use this dynamic demand pricing, which is what creates these huge gaps. And with one place being a great bargain this week and the next place next door being a fortune the same day or the next week. One way for you to find those hidden gems is to go to this website, kayak, kayak.com/explore. And you can look from your home city and look at anywhere in the United States, or go out and look anywhere in the world, and it'll show you what deals there are right then and there. Something I mentioned last month, I'd like to mention again. There's a newsletter you can get that has a free version, a paid version, called Scott's Cheap Flights. And scottscheapflights.com, if you subscribe, even the free version, you're going to see fares that you're going to be like, no way, that's impossible. And when you see one, you grab it right away. This guy just loves living at a computer 24 hours a day. I don't know if he ever sleeps. And sending out deals. The most recent one I got from him was one to Australia for $4.99 round trip from the West Coast. How cheap is that? Neil is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Clark. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. You want to talk about Roku?
Yes, it has become a very popular item throughout my family.
I get to name the dogs that we have in our family, and our dogs right now are named Margaret Thatcher and Winston Churchill. And I think when we get our next dog, it's just going to be Roku, because Roku is such an incredible device.
They are very friendly, that's for sure. We have, throughout 3 households in my family, we actually have 9 Rokus now that replaced, yeah.
So you can't give those to people for their birthday because everybody's already got one.
Yes, actually, that's funny you mentioned that. I kind of used that for birthday and Christmas for quite a while, and yeah, you are right. I have to get more creative now.
So do you have Roku 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, Roku Sticks? What all do you have?
We have, I have some of the legacy devices, like the Roku HD, which changed to the Roku 2. Still works like a charm. And then we have a couple streaming sticks that they've come out with. I also just purchased the Roku 4, their newest one, for 4K televisions last week. And that one is extremely impressive as far as the performance power and how fast animations go through.
Hey, you got to be really careful with the Roku 4. Because if your internet provider has a data cap, if you stream too much 4K television through the Roku, you'll blow right past that data cap.
That is true. Luckily for me, I have one of the big monster cable companies that does not currently do a cap, and I am very fortunate to be living in one of those areas right now.
That's great.
What I've ended up doing with these Rokus is over time, the cable set-top boxes that you have to lease through the cable companies has become an enormous expense on our account, and we elect to keep pay TV mainly for the live sports because that's kind of the one thing that still hasn't gone completely over the top yet. We do have the two major over-the-top providers that are available as well to supplement our cable service, and we love it.
Is that Netflix and Hulu, or Netflix and Amazon Prime, or
Netflix
Sling?
and Hulu particularly.
Netflix, yes. Okay.
It's a great supplement to what we already have, but as far as our other rooms, we have, like in my household, I had 4 rooms. We still have a traditional set-top box that we lease from the provider in our living room, but as far as our other 3 rooms, which were less used, we actually returned those boxes and purchased the Rokus for them. Our particular provider happens to have streaming support, and it has become quite a great service to the point where almost all of the bells and whistles that you get on a traditional set-top box are now included through the Roku streaming device.
Oh, and we should, you and I are talking about this like we're married to Roku, but a lot of people don't know what it is. So let me step back 1 second and explain. ROKU.
Yes.
It's a device you buy starting at $49.95 for the stick, up to, depending on where you buy it, street price, like $119 for the Roku 4 for ultra high def or 4K. And it is a brilliant device that the newer ones you can control through your smartphone. You can talk to them, and you can look to see what program source or sources have available any show or any movie you want to see at any time. It'll show you if it's available free, if you have to pay for it, whatever. And it really has cracked the code of being able to watch streaming or internet television, whatever you want to call it.
One of my favorite things about it is the remote has 12 buttons or less on it, and that is the biggest thing for my grandparents particularly, who are obsessed with their Roku now.
That is neat. I have friends that I took TV shopping, and I convinced them to buy a Roku TV, a TV that from the ground up was built as a Roku TV, and they only watch now Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. They don't watch anything else anymore, and it's saving them a fortune every month by not having their huge, expensive pay TV package.
In my particular case, by returning those 3 cable boxes that I supplemented for Rokus, or that I supplemented Rokus for 3 cable boxes in my house, I broke it down in $138 a year for the lease fee, and that's per room. And when you multiplied it out, it was a savings of over $400 yearly on my cable TV expense, just on the lease equipment savings.
And I want to tell you, I just read a story from a reporter who was a TV nut and went streaming only, and after 3 months missed traditional pay TV so much that he went back to it. And there are people who aren't going to be enthusiastic like you and me, but if you try it and you love it like you and I do, then think how much money you get to save. So good for you. So have you seen the new, let's get real nerd alert here. Have you seen, Neil, the new Roku Stick?
I have not seen the brand new one that's come out yet, but I've heard that it has a quad-core processor, which interests me quite a bit because that is a very small device to get that kind of power out of. So
I gave one to my 10-year-old son, and you would have thought that I gave him all the gold in Fort Knox. He was so excited to get the new Roku Stick that he immediately ripped open the package and installed it on the TV. I'm telling you, it changes the way you watch television when you have a Roku device. Normally at this time you'd be hearing a Clark-rageous moment, but today we got to talk sizzle and deal, because there's been a change this summer that you may not have noticed with the fun and busyness of summertime, and that is a price collapse in the cost of LED light bulbs. LED bulbs that a couple of years ago were like $60 a pop and didn't work that well. Now our producer Joel just bought them for $1.20 each. I recently bought LED bulbs for $1.50 each. Of course, Joel beat me on that. But at those kind of prices, believe it or not, it's worth it for you to go buy LED bulbs in bulk and take out every traditional bulb you have in your house. because the electricity savings are enormous. You know, there was even an argument to be made that only an economist could love, that when LED bulbs were $60 a bulb, it was still a smart economic decision to buy one, but people won't do that. Big companies would, but individuals won't. But now in your own household, you are going to be able to lower your electric bill, depending on how much you use heating and cooling in your house, from 10 to 20%, simply by changing out the bulbs in your house to LEDs. The neat thing is that LEDs are made so well generally that the light they cast will be as good, indistinguishable from a traditional bulb, and they'll last longer than I will live. They last for decades, unless you get a bum bulb. So this is a no-brainer. When you see them for sale at $2 a bulb or less, buy them and change out all the bulbs in your house. Now, when I talk about under $2 a bulb, I'm talking about a lamp replacement kind of bulb, 60-watt equivalent typically. When you get a specialty size bulb, you'll pay more. I needed to buy some odd-shaped LED bulbs recently that I bought at Sam's Club, and they were $3 a bulb. And I was happy to find them and happy to pay the $3 because the electricity savings per bulb, it's gigantic. It's huge money, a return on investment that truly fits in the category of a no-brainer. Just be steady on the ladder when you're up changing the bulbs.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports this podcast. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. You see, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? Well, with Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. It helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/save. That's quickenloans.com/SAVE. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clark.com. Speaking of Facebook, I love this headline from the Guardian newspaper from Europe. Mark Zuckerberg tapes over his webcam. Should you? So, Mark Zuckerberg is in a position where people love causing mischief with him. And he, in a Facebook post, talked about the fact that he tapes over his webcam. So the thing is, here you got a guy who is set up the sharingest environment. Is that a word, sharingest environment we've ever had? And he has enough paranoia to tape over the camera on his laptop. And I know a lot of people who do that. Something that didn't occur to me. I guess I'm never doing anything interesting enough on my laptop that I would tape it over. Joel, you know anybody who's ever taped over?
No, I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, you know, there were some stories recently about how these young women, their computers were hacked into, and then, like, in their dorm rooms and stuff, and the people who hacked into them were putting the video on websites. And, I mean, you know, obviously an unbelievable intrusion on privacy. And so that's always made me nervous. So, you know, it's something I think everyone should consider doing, or getting a little sliding thing. No, because I don't use a computer usually that has one that's active, so.
And there's, I guess, even if you went to your settings, Kim, have you ever done anything like tape over?
Never crossed my mind to do it.
Well, it's something that maybe should cross our minds, especially with our kids. And our kids are, if you have kids that are teenagers, they share everything. Okay, it is the funniest thing. I don't know who wants to see everything they're sharing live all the time. So this idea of privacy and the consequences of somebody invading your privacy, it's not on our kids' radar at all. But if you're creeped out by the idea of somebody hacking in, using that camera on your computer, you imagine somebody has one in their room and weirdos are trying to look at them naked or something? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right, Krista?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very simple. You don't have to spend any money. You just get a piece of Scotch tape or generic brand and take a little piece of cardboard, put it over there, and when you want to use the webcam, you flip that up. When you don't want to use the webcam, you flip it down, period. How about your fingerprints? So I did a TV story the other day where I was at a automated convenience store. There's cameras to see that people don't shoplift and all that, but you pay for everything with your thumbprint. So who has the right to that thumbprint? Big fight going on according to Business Week with lawsuits flying left and right everywhere. Because Illinois has a law that says your biometrics are yours. Companies are now looking at it. They get your biometrics. They've got quite a dossier on you. And they're now looking at that as intellectual property they can sell. If you think I'm going a step too far, you got to know that when Sports Authority went bust, they sold all your personal information on over 100 million Americans to the highest bidder, and your personal information that Sports Authority had on over 100 million of us sold for $15 million. You and I were for sale. So when you're at a checkout somewhere and they ask for your email address at the cash register, do not give it. Do not give it. You know, you buy online, you got to give it. But it's the Wild West still. And eventually we'll have to have some kind of rules that govern our privacy and our information, our eye scan, our fingerprints, our facial thing. Because, you know, now the retailers at a lot of stores are scanning your face when you come in the door. Creepy, huh? Illinois may have the right idea. Jan joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Jan.
Hi, how are you today?
Great, Jan. Your son is going to work at sea.
He is.
Wow. What's he going to be doing?
He's been cast as a performer in a musical that's going to be on a cruise ship for 9 months.
He is likely to have the time of his life.
He can't wait.
When I see the performers off hours, they're having as much fun as any of the paying passengers are having on the ships.
He's 22. This is the perfect time in his life to do that, and I'm really happy that he's doing it. But I'm concerned about a few things. He's going to be in wonderful areas, cruising the Mediterranean, then around New Zealand, and then on another cruise with the same line, Australia. So he's really going to get to see some wonderful parts of the world that he wouldn't be able to see otherwise. My main question.
You said you're worried about it. That sounds great, though.
I'm not worried about it. I misspoke. I'm worried about how I'm going to communicate with him about all these wonderful experiences that he's having.
It's going to be so easy. So easy.
Tell me how it's going to be cheap.
How about cheap as could be? All right. The first thing is he should consider getting a Project Fi cell phone.
Yes.
Have you heard of Project Fi?
I have. I've looked into it, but I'm not really clear about it yet.
All right, so Project Fi is one of Google's experiments. And as a Project Fi customer, you pay $20 a month, and that gets unlimited talk and text. Not a big deal. And then you pay for data only as you use it, but they charge the same rate for data here as anywhere else in the world. So you can use the Project Fi all over the place. And then he can download the app Viber, V-I-B-E-R. You download Viber. You can do video calls. You can do traditional phone calls. You can text back and forth. Because on the ships, the crew have access to superior internet at a lower price than the crew's passengers have.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've used Viber before, and it's wonderful. But I've used it like Mexico and Canada. I haven't used it for the Mediterranean.
Yeah, Project Fi is a great alternative. Now, the other thing people use is they'll use T-Mobile, because T-Mobile gives unlimited texting and unlimited data in almost every country in the world. But you can't just switch to T-Mobile and then leave the country. They want your use outside the country to be limited to, I think, 20% of your use over time. And so if he just signs up for it and then he goes on the ship, they're going to cut him off.
Oh, okay.
But Project Fi is all the rage with people who travel a lot around the world, and would be ideal because anytime he has Wi-Fi, it works as a Wi-Fi phone instead of a cellular phone. And so it doesn't count against the data that you're buying on it, which is, I think, $10 per gig, which is not a great price here. But if you think about traveling around the world and being able to use it anywhere he goes pretty much, that is a great price.
Does he need a special phone for it? Does
Yes.
he have to have the Google phone?
You have to have a special Google phone that are at various price points. And a lot of Project Fi phones, people tried it, didn't like it, and they're stuck with the phone. People sell off on eBay.
Okay.
So a Project Fi phone is $349 for the most advanced. A cheaper one is $199. Those are for new ones.
That's wonderful. Okay. That worry then will be checked off my list.
All right, and you'll be able to communicate all you want. Now, something else. Before he goes, he should open an account with Charles Schwab.
Okay.
Because Charles Schwab allows unlimited ATM withdrawals worldwide at no fee and no foreign currency junk fee. So even if an ATM charges, let's say, $10 equivalent to withdraw money, Schwab absorbs that.
Oh, my goodness.
So a lot of international travelers do those two things as a package, the Project Fi and Charles Schwab.
So is he issued a debit card through Charles Schwab?
Exactly.
Do we have to worry about theft of that? What would happen if the card was stolen?
Schwab's policy is zero liability.
Wow.
So the idea is to capture him as an investor. You know, he's going to be on the ship. He's not going to need to spend a lot of the money he has. He can deposit it right in the Schwab, invest through it. And what they hope is to get him like as a lifetime customer. So it works for him and works for Schwab. Doug is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Doug.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great, thank you. You want to share with your fellow listener that you stood up for yourself and made what happen?
Well, I mean, I was in the middle of being taken advantage of on a insurance claim on a cell phone. And so in order to, I kind of have to set the groundwork. Is that okay a little bit? I'll
sure,
try and be
please.
concise.
Go right ahead.
All right. So anyway, I bought my son a phone, and at the time, my thinking was the headline was, loss, breakage, whatever, insurance. And so I signed him up for it because I figured, 12-year-old kid, one of those things was likely. And I didn't really noodle it through. So he'd had the phone for a couple of years, and actually one time the phone, for no reason, started working intermittently, and I brought it in, and they replaced it for just about nothing. And so in my head, I'm thinking, hey, this insurance thing, great deal. But then the phone they replaced it with a few months ago, we didn't notice there was some pre-existing damage on it. When they sent it to us, it was not particularly visible. And now a few months later, the damage is apparent because it's spread out across the face of the thing, and I bring it in for the change of the phone, and they say, oh, you have a $175 deductible because there's damage to the phone. And I was flabbergasted. How the phone wasn't even worth $175 to begin with. So I went and I talked to the first level of people, and basically they said, oh, well, the last time you brought it in, that was a warranty. So that's why we didn't charge you. But here it's damaged, so if you're going to try a warranty, we'll charge you $400. So you need to put in an insurance claim, and that'll only be $175. And no matter
it's
how many
times... It's not sounding so good anymore, is it?
I mean, I pointed out to that I'd already paid some $200+ for an insurance policy for the privilege of paying another $175, and that was pretty ridiculous. So I went to the initial customer service people, and they aren't empowered to help you. So
yeah, they don't even work for the company, by the way.
Right. I went to the air quotes loyalty department, and they were clearly not empowered to help me. So I went to their supervisor, and they were unwilling to help me. So I went to that person's supervisor, and they had gotten to the point where they said, I'm not going to help you. And then finally they said, tell you what, I proposed to them that they just go in their back room where all the phones that people had sent them for ditching the other phone carrier, just send me one of those. And so they agreed to do that.
So they just sent you another used phone and call it a day.
Exactly.
All right, let me give you one tip. I never insure a phone, but if you want to, look at squaretrade.com. Squaretrade.com. It is almost always a much superior premium and a much better outcome than ever buying the coverage for a phone ever from any of the cell phone carriers. You only got results, Doug, because you were persistent. David's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, David.
Hey, Clark. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. You got a hassle because of Costco getting rid of American Express and going to Visa. What happened?
Yes, we've kind of been searching for a house on and off for the last 3 or 4 months, so I have been keeping track of my credit scores. Hadn't looked at it since probably beginning of June. Well, just checked it the other day on 2 of the free online sources you recommend, and all 3 of my credit scores have dropped anywhere from 64 to 73 points.
Now, that should not be
Amex change.
That should not have anything to do with it because it's not considered to be a new extension of credit.
Well, they're showing it on the reports that the account is closed, and they show nothing for the new Visa card.
Really?
Yeah. So
I've not heard that from anybody, and I have not seen that on mine. That's brutal for you with the mortgage thing.
Yeah, well, luckily my lowest are still all at 750. I was in the low 800s, so but it's still a pretty big hit, and I just didn't know if there's anything we can do to try to fix that.
I'm looking at my producer Joel's. You're in your Karma dashboard.
That's right.
Karma?
My Credit Karma dashboard. It looks
Yours
like they closed mine too.
Also shows closed, and yours does not show the new Citibank card either?
Not yet.
All right. David, I'm going to get an answer to that because you were the first person to tell me that, and now I see it with Joel. And we'll talk to Citi and find out what's going on with them not reporting.
Yeah, and maybe it's because of all the credit line that I had going away, and I also had 15 plus years of American
The
Express
15
history.
years still reflects. That still shows in your age of accounts.
Yeah.
So, but it's the ratio changing on your available credit.
Yeah.
And so we'll get an answer from Citi because that could affect a lot of people. That is an unintended consequence, obviously, of the switch from American Express to Visa. Hang on, we're going to get back with you as well as share on the air.
You know, when you're going to buy a car, pricing information is great and necessary. But there's more to doing it than just the price. There's the actual buying experience. If you want to enjoy a better one, you should go to a True Car certified dealer. They're there to help you find the car that you want, and they're also what make True Car unique. With True Car, you can connect with a local certified dealer that you choose, so you can lock in a guaranteed savings off the MSRP and enjoy a totally better buying experience. And by better, they also mean faster. Over 2 million cars have already been sold to True Car users who have visited their True Car certified dealer. And there are over 11,000 True Car certified dealers nationwide, so it's probably pretty easy to find one near you. And check this, for a new car, average True Car users save $3,279 off MSRP. All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I do this? It's easy. Just go to TrueCar.com or, right there on your phone, download the True Car app. You can find the car you want, see the True Car pricing curve, which shows you what other people in your area paid for the same car, and that way you can know you're getting a good price and feel confident. Then you'll get a guaranteed savings certificate from the True Car certified dealer. Go to the dealer, and your guaranteed savings off MSRP will be honored, and you enjoy a quick, easy experience. How's that for car buying? So when you're ready to buy a new car, or even a used one, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app and enjoy the better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so excited that you're with us on the Clark Howard Show because this show is about you learning ideas that help you keep more of what you make. A half hour from now, well, my goal is to save you money on one of those monthly bills. We're going to talk about new developments in the cell phone area that can substantially reduce your costs each month and cumulatively by a big amount over the course of a year. Our web address is clark.com, CLARK.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. You can get answers to your questions 45 hours a week off the air. We do this for free. We've been doing so since 1993, where you can talk with a member of Team Clark and have your questions answered. You'll see at clark.com how to get a question answered Monday through Friday, no weekends, but Monday through Friday, 9 hours a day. When you're looking at buying a new car, new vehicle of any kind, most people are not buying new. It's new to you. Most people buy used. But used vehicles come with a history. And sometimes that history's not so great. So standard advice when you're looking at a used vehicle is to check the history of that vehicle, see what's been going on with it. And if that checks out and you make a deal on a vehicle, you probably heard me say you have as part of the deal that you get to have the vehicle checked out by a mechanic of your choosing. Vehicle's not okay, you don't buy it. It is okay, you proceed. Those things work so well together because often if you see a vehicle advertised for sale, a used vehicle, and you talk to the seller, do you know what happens when you ask for the VIN that you want to run a title history? Well, I'm going to take you on a trip down memory lane. Our producer, Krista, bought a used SUV several years ago. And Krista, what happened when you would respond to an ad for a vehicle and you would ask the seller for the VIN number?
I would be hung up on often.
And hung up on probably 3/4 of the time?
Probably somewhere close to that. Yep.
Because a lot of dealers selling vehicles are not interested in buyers that are going to check the history because you may find out it's been in a bad wreck or whatever it is. And so when you ask for the VIN, they're like, we're not wasting our time on this person. Click. No goodbye, nothing. Click. So it's one of the great steps at narrowing the field when you're looking for a used vehicle. But that costs money, checking the vehicle history. And Carfax, the biggest player in the business, Carfax, now has a competitor offering vehicle history for free. I'm not quite sure what the business model is for this, but it's vehiclehistory.com, and don't know how long it will be free, but you're able to see the vehicle history. You can check accident reports, you can check what might be known about a vehicle with DMV. You're able essentially to see a full report with any VIN. And this is essential when you're looking at a vehicle. I remember years ago, my wife and I were looking at a used vehicle, and it was great. And I did things in the wrong order, which is when I learned to do it in the right order. We had it checked out by a mechanic who gave it a very good report. Then I ran the VIN and found out the vehicle had been in a wreck. See, that was pretty dumb of me, because you do it in the reverse order. I wouldn't have ever paid for the mechanic to do the check on the vehicle if I would have done it in the right order. So I'm asked repeatedly, if you're buying a certified used car, is it still necessary to do any of these things? That vehicle that turned out to have been in a wreck was being sold at a franchise car dealer under their certified used car program and was clearly in an accident, obvious from, in that case, a Carfax report. So yes, even though the manufacturer certified used car program said vehicles that have been in accidents do not qualify, there they were, certified, trying to sell the thing. Could have been a clerical error. Who knows? But remember this, and again, I don't know how long this will be free, vehiclehistory.com. Amika is with us on the Clark Howard Show. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Clark. Thank you for taking my call.
Certainly. So you're marrying somebody who's got great credit.
Well, that's the plan, at least.
Well, good. Was that a requirement when you were dating? What's your credit score? Here's mine.
No, not really. But it just happens to work out that way.
Well, good.
All right. So, well, mine is a little bit not as good as hers. I'm in the low 600s, and I actually got into a little bit of trouble with all 5 of my credit cards. So they're currently closed and in a repayment plan by, I guess, a third-party company. And they will be subsequently canceled at the end of that payment period. Now, my fiance has really good credit. She's in like the high 700s, and, you know, she makes timely payments and really has no rolling balance. So we're thinking about adding me as a co-owner on her accounts, on her credit cards, to kind of help improve and rebuild my credit score. Now, I wasn't sure if that will have any negative impact on her credit score itself.
It will have no negative impact on her.
Right.
And will have enormous positive benefit once you've finished the payment plan on these cards. There's no advantage right now.
Okay.
So as long as those collections hang out there, and you said there's 5 cards?
Right.
How much time do you have till you will have that payment plan completed?
3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to congratulate you for sticking to it and paying off those balances, because so many people say, and just walk away from them.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot to your character that you're paying off this debt.
I'm trying.
So when this is done, in just think of it as months now, in less than 36 months, when it's done, then her adding you as an authorized user will cause your credit score to move up quite nicely. But as long as these are active things that are being paid off with balances still to pay off, I don't think there would be any meaningful benefit. So let me tell you what I'd do as a test.
Okay.
If she's willing, she should add you as an authorized user on one of her accounts.
Okay.
And see if after 2 months that gives any benefit to your score. If it doesn't, then my belief, that I believe is my knowledge. If it turns out to be wrong, it's not knowledge. But I don't think there will be a meaningful benefit till you get through the 3 years.
Till this whole 3-year period is over.
Yeah,
okay.
That's why I'd experiment with just having her add you to one of her cards, because she's got near golden credit in the high 700s.
Not bad at all.
No, that's great. And again, I want to tell you how wonderful it is that you're going to make all this good.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, best to you, and I hope you have a great life together.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks. And we're now speaking with Kent. Kent, you have something that you're going to do that is one of those cherished American traditions. What is that?
Well, it's going to be my wife's cherished tradition. She wants to go to the Kentucky Derby for her 60th birthday.
Oh, how neat.
But how do you do it? I've looked and I've checked online, and they've got different seating, tiers or different price ranges.
Sure.
And then there's also lodging and all. And I was hoping it might come out better if I booked things early for next year, or maybe I should wait. I don't know.
Yeah, so with the Kentucky Derby is an unusually different event than most marquee events. You think about a Super Bowl, every seat in the stadium is a fortune. And most of the seats don't publicly come for sale. So you end up buying them in a secondary market, and you pay thousands, even for the worst seats in the stadium, wherever stadium. The Kentucky Derby, because, a horse track is so big and there's such a large general admission area, as I recall, you can sit general admission at the Kentucky Derby for $30 or so.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've read on some of these, opinion pages on the web. They say that one of the areas was newly renovated and the restroom access was much better. And it's like a section that's supposed to be sort of like, livable. It's not the worst, it's not the best, but the price isn't too bad.
And how much is that section?
I think it was like $700 a seat.
$700 a seat. I'm still breathing, but barely. My goodness. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm looking at $30 seats and $50 seats all in general admission. $700. This is a very special 60th birthday for her.
Right. Well,
you're talking about buying direct from them, which the seats come available this fall.
Oh, so is that right? You can't do it now? They're not even available yet?
I don't think they go for sale till sometime after Labor Day. Would you
usually
say?
Around November?
November. And so right when they become available, whatever level ticket you buy, you want to buy it direct from them.
Okay, when you say direct from them, are you saying like you go online and do it?
Yes.
And it's like KentuckyDerby.com or something?
We looked at it just a second ago. Krista looked at it. She'll give the web address. I think it's a pretty simple web address. Now, I want to talk about the accommodations because you freaked me out with the $700 ticket price.
It is KentuckyDerby.com, by the way.
Okay.
So now you're made my brain scramble, but people that are real bargain hunters going to the Kentucky Derby stay generally in the area of Cincinnati.
Okay.
Which is which is about an hour and a half away from Churchill Downs.
Okay.
And Cincinnati has enough hotel inventory. There's a lot of fun things to do in Cincinnati, and people will come over for the race day, and then they'll go either go home from there or go back to Cincinnati and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Okay. And you said about an hour and a half drive?
Yeah.
And what about parking when you get to the Derby?
Well, there's parking it's all dependent on how close you park. There are a lot of private operators there, just as with most marquee events.
You can prepay. There's on the Kentucky Derby website, they have different lots that you can prepay through them to park at for as little as what I saw was like $20 with shuttles over to Churchill Downs.
See, that would work.
Yeah, so it's one of those events that is different from other very, very historical sporting events, is that this is one that you don't have to spend big money on. You can if you want. You can make it a fortune if you want. But if you think about inconveniencing yourself some, like with the Cincinnati thing, because Louisville just doesn't have enough hotel space, you can make it a very affordable and fun trip for your wife's birthday. And again, when the ticket sales go for sale that day in November, that's the day you want to buy. David returns to the Clark Howard Show. David, you were with us before about the Costco credit card transition from American Express to Citibank Visa, and you found out a very distressing thing had happened to you. Recap for your fellow listener what that was.
So I check my credit reports, probably pretty frequently, and just happened to look at it last Monday. And noticed that my scores had dropped from the low 800s to around 750. And the only thing that's changed on my credit report is the Costco change from the Amex to the Visa card.
Okay, so we have talked to Citibank because you're like the canary in the coal mine. You're the first person we've heard from who suffered a big credit hit in the transition from American Express to Citibank Visa. And it is the weirdest circumstance that you have come upon. And that is a huge drop in your score, larger maybe than most people would experience. But what's happened is American Express shut off your available credit immediately on June 20th at midnight. The Visa isn't going to start reporting, according to Citibank, they're not going to start reporting to the Bureau's activity on people's accounts till September. And so during that period of time, it looks like people have significantly less available credit. And as you're aware, as somebody who follows your credit score closely, 30% of someone's available, 30% of your score is made up by what percent of your available credit you're using.
Yeah, and that was it was $43,000 of available credit that went away. So
let me tell you what I'm going to do now. We're going to talk to Costco, who's kind of gotten a black eye on this stuff with the transition, and see if they can nudge Citibank along to start reporting sooner than September. And I want to thank you, David, for alerting us to it. We're going to keep you posted on what we find out from Costco.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where you learn ways to save more and spend less and don't let anybody ever rip you off. On the web, we're at clark.com. When you have a question, clark.com/ask. I am really excited to share with you that if you are on a cell phone plan by yourself, the ability for you to save money has gotten easier and easier, and it's because of true technology breakthroughs by two cell phone companies you likely have never heard of. For the last 5 years, I've been talking about a company called RepublicWireless.com. RepublicWireless.com is a pioneer and using the Wi-Fi backbone that exists across the country to offer you a far more affordable and reliable cell phone service. And Republic, as it's matured over the years and grown, has morphed and changed the plans it offers from time to time. And they figured out their sweet spot is plans at $20 a month based on what they've learned from their customers over the years. And for $20 a month, you get unlimited talk, unlimited text, and 1 gig of cellular data. Now, 1 gig of cellular data with them is much more than 1 gig because wherever Wi-Fi is trusted by you, which for most people, about 80% of the time, we are at a location with trusted Wi-Fi. The cellular is just for when you're not at that 80% of time. And so for $20 a month, no fooling, you get unlimited talk, unlimited text, the 1 gig. And this is not for data hogs. This isn't for somebody who is using their cell phone all the time everywhere. But it is a very, very good price in the market. On top of it, the technology that Republic uses has improved dramatically. And so the call quality and the ease of use is superior. A number of new phones now work with Republic Wireless. I remember when they started, there was one phone, a pretty abysmally terrible, out-of-date Android phone years ago. Now they have a wide variety of phones you can use, and you can use most anything except an iPhone because Apple doesn't permit their phones to be used on these discount services. But it is a great way, non-contract, for you to save money on a bill that right now you may be paying big money for, and you take that cost down to $20 a month. In that general vicinity is a company I mentioned just in passing, or a service I mentioned just in passing about a month or 6 weeks ago, and that's Project Fi. Project Fi. 2 words. Project Fi. Project Fi is a deeply discounted worldwide or nearly worldwide cell phone service being offered by Google. And the Project Fi, the one real knock on it is there's almost no phones that it supports. There's just a couple of Google phones, the Nexus 5X, the Nexus 6P, that you can use on it. But for people who travel, it's extraordinary because you use your phone in most any place in the world just as if you're home. You pay a base of $20 a month for unlimited talk and text, and then you pay for data as you use it, with most people ending up with a monthly bill around $27 or $28 a month. And so you can be overseas and use it just like you're here in the United States and still have the same basic bill. And so what they have done is fantastic for people who travel internationally. Most people don't travel internationally. If they ever do, very rarely. So for most people, the republicwireless.com is a grand slam home run for your wallet. Ashley's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you, Ashley. You have an either-or kind of question for me about money.
Yes.
Let me hear.
So my husband and I have about $26,000 in credit card debt, and we just found out that we are pregnant with our first child.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to save money for the baby, but also still pay down the credit card debt. Right now, we put pretty much all of our extra income that we have towards the debt, and we're just not sure if we should keep doing that until it's paid off, or maybe adjust it a little bit to save some cash on hand.
So what kind of incomes do the two of you have, and are you going to stay home from work for a significant period of time after the baby's born?
Well, that's the other part that we're not sure of. So right now I'm on salary, and my husband, he's not. So, and he gets a good amount of overtime. So, we have a certain amount of money that we know we can bank on every month, and then we have his extra overtime that we try to put towards debt as well. As far as when the baby comes, we have thought about the possibility of selling our house where we currently are and moving further out to where we could afford for me to stay home. But we just bought our house a year ago, and so by the time the baby came, we would have owned the house for 2 years, and I just wasn't sure if that would be too soon to try and sell.
No, as long as the marketplace is such that, let's say, home values have risen where you are, there'd be no reason why you would have to worry about how long or short you've owned the home.
Okay.
So if your home has it increased in value in this year or so?
According to what we've looked at, it doesn't look like it, but our house it was flipped prior to us purchasing it, whereas most of the houses in the area haven't, so it's not always the best judge to look at the surrounding sales. So I don't know if it's lost or maintained or increased.
Okay. So the only way to know that is in your area there will be a number of agents that are what I call farmers. Those are the agents that very heavily are involved in the sales of real estate in your neighborhood. Most neighborhood clusters have 3, at most 4 agents that sell most of the listings in that area. And so I'd bring them in and say, hey, we're considering selling this home. What is a realistic price that we would get for this home? Not what you'd list it for. What's realistic based on what transactions are happening around us for us to get for this? And if there's not any real harm, especially without having the baby yet, because once you have a baby, you don't want to be in the midst of people coming to look at your home.
Right.
So this is the time period you want them looking at it and giving you their 2 cents, and then maybe putting it on the market and just testing and seeing if you can get the home sold.
Okay.
Because if it's not a terrible sacrifice for your husband's commute, and you could move to a lower cost area and be able to stay at home instead of going back to work, and that would be best for your family and your lifestyle, I want you to try to pursue that.
Okay.
Now back to your original question, which there is not a magic bullet answer to the question, because $26,000 in credit card debt is a pretty good chunk of debt. That's why I need some kind of ballpark what your combined incomes are right now, just a guesstimate.
Guesstimate would probably be about $120,000.
Okay, so that debt is manageable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not in a.
We put $1,300 at minimum towards it every month, but if something comes up that we have to purchase, for the house or whatever, that gets added to that debt. So even though we're paying towards it, sometimes things come up that bring it back up.
All right, I would suggest, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I would suggest until that debt is gone, you put your credit cards in the freezer and don't use them anymore.
Okay.
And I literally mean you get a freezer bag, one of those storage freezer bags, put some water in it and throw both of your credit cards in it.
Okay.
And freeze those cards, because there's something about human nature that if you don't have the cards, you will somehow get through these months spending a whole lot less. And it'll be much easier for you to get that debt down. At an income that is 5 times the amount of credit card debt you have, you should be able to make some serious progress against this debt before the baby comes.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to come into another household member also with you wishing to not work for a while and have that kind of burden sitting there.
Right.
So I'd say all hands on deck towards paying down the debt.
Okay.
And do you think that you could convince your husband that it would be a great idea to put those cards in the deep freeze?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we don't really add to it now unless an emergency comes up. What happened was we moved across the country for my job, and then a family situation came up that required us to move back. And so we had and we moved across the country, so we had these huge moving expenses that weren't anticipated, that we're just trying to pay down.
Okay. All right. Well,
now, I have another question. Yeah. So sometimes you hear that it's, a part of what your credit score is having under the 30% mark of, your credit to debt ratio. Is it better to just keep paying one card down until it's done and then going on to the next one and doing the same? Or is it better to pay across all of them until they get under that magic number?
No, because it's not the individual cards that matter. It's your overall available credit versus, your credit limits all added together versus what you've charged on each one. That's what matters when you add all those together. So that's what you want to be below 30%. What percent would you guess it is right now?
I don't know, maybe 50?
Okay, so yes, your credit cards are going in the deep freeze because let's say you got lucky and you sold your home pretty quickly, you're going to really get hurt on qualifying for a good mortgage if your ratios are at 50%. So that's why everything the two of you need to focus on right now is paying down that debt.
Okay.
And cutting every expense you possibly can that you have as a monthly bill.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, and congratulations to you on the upcoming birth of your baby.
Thank you so much.
William is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, William.
How you doing, Clark?
Great, thank you. What's going on in your life exciting?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm 70 years old, and I'm looking to do a last will and testament, and leave what I perceive to be a very valuable investment to my significant other. We are not married, and she's worried that if she goes ahead and takes the last will and testament, or if I do that, that she's worried that any bills that I have remaining upon my demise, she'll get stuck with. Is that true?
Okay, so that is a great question, and it can be, depending on the specific circumstances, very technical, but you have the right to, would you name her as both your executrix and she would inherit whatever you have?
Yeah.
All right, so what normally happens, the executrix or the executor or administrator, if appointed by the court, whatever, what they have to do is, and what she would have to do, is she would have to give people an opportunity to make a claim against the estate. So anybody you owe money to would have a claim against the estate. And then her responsibility is to take the assets in the estate and pay out what is owed to people, and then whatever's left, she would end up inheriting. In this case, you have an investment that today has a specific market value, or is it not something that has a specific market value?
It does not have a specific market value. It's a year-to-year fund that will be paid year after year, depending upon the results of the year's activities.
Huh. Okay, so this is not an annuity or something like this. This is an interest in some kind of ongoing...
Exactly.
All right. So And she's not your wife?
No.
Okay. So there are certain provisions that if she was your spouse, is your spouse, in many states there are protections for her in not having to be responsible for paying beyond what cash is available.
Right.
So what I'm going to recommend in this case, if you've not done so because there's added complexity, is for you to go see with her a lawyer who specializes in estate law.
Okay.
Because structured properly, she may be able to inherit this and not be responsible for the debts that might be left behind at your demise. But this is the kind of thing you have to get the proper advice up front. It's cheap money to spend to prevent a problem for her later. And remember, you don't want any lawyer. You want a lawyer who all he or she does for his or her living is they do estate law practice.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.
Move that way, folks. Move down the street.
Police tried to clear streets of protesters and spectators this afternoon around the arena hosting the Republican National Convention. Transgender activist and Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner says Democrats promote more inclusive policies for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgenders.
I get it. The Democratic Party does a better job when it comes to LGBT community, the trans community, all that kind of stuff. And Obama actually has been very good from that standpoint.
Jenner says she's personally experienced no issues with which bathroom to use.
I haven't used a men's room in a year and a half. And thank God, because there's some great conversation going on in the ladies' rooms. Okay?
Indiana Governor Mike Pence accepts the GOP vice presidential nomination tonight. Donald Trump accepts the presidential nomination tomorrow night. I'm Ross Simpson.